We said to have an extraordinary life, you gotta have an extraordinary psychology, right? Extraordinary psychology means you got to live in an extraordinary state. To be in an extraordinary state, you got to condition your nervous system, your body, your physiology, and focus to be at their best. And to do that, why doesn't everybody do that? It's not because you can't. We all have the ability. It's because of our standards. Think about your own life. I know there have been areas in your life where, at some point in time, you just shifted and raised the standard in your life. Change happened because whatever people have their identity attached to, they live. We live who we believe we are. My journey from here to there was lonely. The reason I was willing to be wrong and admit wrong was so that I could grow and so that I could change. You see, growth is a result of bad habits stopped, wrong priorities changed, and new ways of thinking embraced. It happens only when we question ourselves enough to ask serious questions from others. The people who do not grow are unwilling to ask themselves or others hard questions. They are unwilling to leave what they have known and practice. They are not willing to be wrong, so they can discover what is right. Therefore, they cling to right and their lives turn out wrong. How sad. We get what we're looking for. We filter out everything else in our life. You're going to get what you're looking for, even if it doesn't exist. Even if it's not there. If you're looking for negative setbacks or to be overlooked, you will find it even though it's not supposed to be there. But if you're looking for victory, for winning, for recruits, for people to change your life, for magic moments, you will find them if you're looking for them. I promise you that's true in life. Your brain, when you condition it, knows exactly what to go for. It'll find a way to get there. When you decide what's most important to you, your brain goes after it. Surrendering the need to be right enables us to ask questions that others can answer and add value to us. Surrendering the need to be right is the prerequisite to finding right. I believe that with all my heart. Music, why? My. And here's what I know. I never want to get to the place where I've got it all figured out. I still want to keep learning. I still want to keep growing. And I still want to be a student. I still want to be on a learning curve, and I still want to value people. I still want to walk into my life and say, look, you have something that, if I could just ask the right question, you could impart to me that would help me and allow me to become a better person. My ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. Pride is the burden of a foolish person. If you're going to do a job, do it right. I've always been told how average I can be, always been criticized about being average. But I want to tell you something. I stand here before you, before all of these people, not listening to those words, but telling myself every single day to shoot for the stars, to be the best that I can be. Good enough isn't good enough if it can be better, and better isn't good enough if it can be best. Wisdom will come to you in the unlikeliest of sources, a lot of times through failure. When you hit rock bottom, remember this. While you're struggling, rock bottom can also be a great foundation on which to build and on which to grow. I'm not worried that you'll be successful. I'm worried that you won't fail from time to time. The person that gets up off the canvas and keeps growing is the person that will continue to grow their influence. How many of you would love a breakthrough? All right, number one, you gotta have a permeating attitude that you're going to win. You have to have a positive outlook. You got to be optimistic. You got to know you're going to win. You got to right now say, I'm going to win. I don't mean just this contest. I mean, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. My life is going to win. And there's going to be a victorious life here. Because listen to me, the price you pay for losing here is too extreme. You have to carry the burden of failure the rest of your life. You carry that around with you if you fail here. The biggest thing that breaks my heart is you feel the spirit right now. And then, when you get back, these dream stealers run into you and start to steal your dream. And you quit. You give up. You've got to decide, I'm going to win. You've got to decide that. The failure part of carrying failure, you've been exposed to what your life could be. If you fail here, the price is extreme. It's forever. You carry the failure forever. In being honest with you, I meet people oftentimes and they say, I was in WFGS. You really changed my life for this meeting, but, and they put their heads down. They've been carrying it. They carry it. They see these Facebooks and Instagrams and what we're doing. You gotta know you're going to win. You gotta sell out. Yeah. I'm telling you, you gotta become a sellout. You need to sell out. Oh, you need to get obsessed. You gotta get relentless. You gotta be a road dog. You gotta get intense. That's what you gotta do. There are some dream stealers you need to look out for. These four. I don't want them to happen to you. Ready? Say yes. Music 1. No, press. Dream stealer number 1. That'll take you out of here. Lack of confidence or faith. Lack of belief will steal your dream. You gotta know you're going to win. You've got to have some faith. These people sitting around you right now, they're whispering to you, you can do this. I believe it. Just like when you were a little boy or a little girl, they've always believed in you. They've always known you're going to do something special. They always knew you were great. You need to know it. You need to take that God that's sitting there with you and those precious souls that have passed, who have always believed in you, and carry them with you everywhere. They're with you anyway. Acknowledge them. If you don't believe that, honor them, honor God. Honor these people who believed in you with your magnificent life. Honor them. Don't give in to lack of belief or lack of confidence. Don't ever do that again. Don't do it in WFG or out of WF goods. You were made to do something great. You're special. You were made in the image of God. Something awesome is supposed to happen for you. And those of you that have made something awesome happen, something even more awesome is supposed to happen for you. I would say for the last 45 years, we've told psychologists they've been certainly in part to blame for this. You're okay the way you are. That's what we tell young people. Oh, you're okay the way you are. It's like, and there's nothing worse you can tell a young person than that, especially if they're miserable. You know, and lots of them, if they're miserable and aimless, it's like, oh, I'm miserable and aimless, and sometimes I'm suicidal, and I'm nihilistic, and I don't have any direction in my life. It's, well, you're okay the way you are here. And it's like they don't want to hear that. They want to hear, look, you know, and you know this, you're useless. You know nothing. You haven't got started. You've got 60 years to put yourself together, and God only knows what you could become. And that message is so much more. It's so funny because it's such an attack, but it's so positive because there's faith in the potential that makes up the person, rather than the miserable actuality that's manifesting itself at the moment. Young people respond extraordinarily well to that because, and you know that if you're a parent and you love your child, your son, or your daughter, what you're trying to foster is the best in them. You want that to manifest itself across the course of their life. You want them to become continually more than they are, see what they could be. And well, I think that's part of the great message of the West. That's the ethical requirement of individual being, in the proper sense, is to constantly know that you're not what you could be, take responsibility for that, and to commit yourself, body and soul, to the attainment of that ideal. So I have this thing that I've been promoting called No Whining Wednesdays. On Wednesday, you cannot whine, complain, or criticize. And people are like, well, what is whining? Whatever you think it is, don't do it. And every time you do it, you have to put a quarter in a jar. If you whine about anything, I can't, I'm tired. By the way, why don't you? What happened? Every one of them will cost you a quarter. Or complaining. Why don't you? Why don't you? Why do you always? How kind. I always. They never. You a quarter. Then last week, I had people send me pictures of their jars with quarters. Oh my God. But what they said to me was also wonderful because I was never ever aware of how much whining, complaining, and criticizing I do. Now, I've got mothers doing it with their children. So Wednesday is No Whining Wednesday. We need to practice that. We need to stop whining about what isn't happening, what we don't have. What we can't do, what somebody didn't do. We gotta get it clean. In 2014, no whining, no complaining, no criticizing. I struggled with this. The last time I took an English class, I got a fail. My English teacher said I was the weakest writer she had ever met in her entire life. The last time I took a speech class the same year, I got a D- in speech. My speech teacher said, I recommend you never speak in public. You should get a desk job. So that was the beginning of my life. That was my 19-year-old experience. And then I went on, trying to figure it out. I was obedient. I went and got a job in accounting. I was in the collection department for 7 years. Y'all don't know, I'm dangerous to accounting. I'm just dangerous. I was in collections, and you know you should never put a broke person in collections. Never, because everybody's reasons sound good to me. I'm funny, but it was real. Not only did I say, girl, don't you worry about paying that. I'm going to take your name off the list. Somebody went to jail because I was inclined to do so. I got fired from 5 different jobs. Then I got pregnant with my son unexpectedly. At 8 months, my son's father went to prison. I had to get on government assistance to have my baby. I was on WIC, Women, Infants and Children, to feed my child. When my son was 8 months old, I went to the ATM to get $20 out of the bank because I didn't have any diapers for him. In order to get $20, she gave me $11.42. I still can't tell the story without getting emotional because of my story. For 2 days, I had to wrap my son in a towel. But something happened. Stevie. In those 2 days, I was at rock bottom. I was broken. Inglewood, California, my son laying on his back at 8 months. I had a towel over him, and I had my hand on his stomach saying, don't you worry, Jaylon. Mommy will never be this broke again. I made a decision. I was bankrupt. Every stinking thought I had, I was bankrupt. I was trying to protect my pride. I was bankrupt and trying to be all that in a bag of chips and a bowl of grits. I was falsified. I was bankrupt and trying not to ask anyone for help. I was bankrupt in everything that was holding me and keeping me where I was. I've always talked a good game, but I wasn't doing anything with my gift. All that talk about potential, I was tired of having potential. I wanted to have mine now. I looked at that baby at 8 months and said, I want to transform your life because you didn't ask to come into this chaos as an African-American male child in South Central Los Angeles with a single mother whose father is in prison. He had a 66% chance of going to prison himself. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. So if I have to be willing to drastically transform myself so that I can become the woman that I know I can be, that's what I began to do. I was radical. What did you do, Lisa? What did you do to change your life? First, I realized I couldn't grow with people who were struggling like me. That whole, I don't want to leave anybody behind. No, I don't want to stay with y'all. Right, you don't even want to be here. I don't want to be the queen of this block. Yeah, and I became okay with the fact that it doesn't make me any less committed to my community, committed to my culture, committed to my family. The best thing I can do for you is not stay here with you. That's right. Once I got that, I went to places I'd never seen before. I went to conferences where people were talking about money, talking about prosperity. It was like, no hablo español. What are y'all talking about? ROE and PPMs and term agreements and capital fundraising and bottom lines. What is it? I stayed until I learned what they were talking about. I went to the same conference 42 times, and there I raised $532,000 in capital for my company to start my dream. My dream was to transform teen lives. I wanted to teach teens how to fall madly in love with themselves and how to make integrity-based decisions. I got it funded and I started working. That was the beginning of me rescuing myself. I realized that I am my rescue. No one else is my rescuer. I'm not suggesting that you don't work hard in terms of an idea, but am trying to tell you, if you grind, you will be broke the rest of your life, or you will barely make it. This society did not become rich by workers. It became rich by the people who knew how to put the workers to work. I heard a poem once that said, "Many a flower has bloomed unceasingly and wasted sweetness upon the cold desert air." It's translated to mean simply that many talented persons have gone unnoticed, and the world never had a chance to be exposed to their talent, because that person did not take the time to begin to express or to demonstrate or to motivate themselves in the direction to bring that which they came into the universe to bring. If you can identify your God-given gift, that's your greatest chance for success, because God gave you a gift. At birth, He gave it to you. You don't have to look for it. It's inside you. It's the thing that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. When you are living in your gifts, when you get up in the morning to go to work, you're overjoyed. This is how you know you're not living in your gift. If you are waking up in the morning and you can't stand waking up because you don't want to go to your job, it's because you are not living in your God-given gift. God created you to have a life of abundance, to wake up in a joyous spirit. If you're not, it's because you have not tuned into what God created you for. The separation of talent and skill is one of the greatest misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who have dreams, who want to do things. Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft. Life is not just watching the clock tick away. Life is a collection of experiences, their intensity, their frequency, whatever the span of your life turns out to be. Here's what you want to fill it up with: experiences and the intensity of those experiences. Here's one of the best ones we covered earlier. When should you start building this? The answer: as soon as you have it finished. When should you start the day? As soon as you have it finished. Plan the day the best you can, leaving plenty of room for improvising and surprises and all the stuff that happens during the course of the day. But if you've planned a good productive day, now you start that day. You can't believe how much more valuable your time will be. Don't start the day until you have it finished. Weak people are a problem in general, and I don't mean physically weak. I mean cowardly, let's say, and deceitful, because I'm thinking of it more in terms of moral weakness. There are a variety of reasons. First of all, if you can't support your own weight, then someone else has to do it. And that's not good. If you don't make your pathway, if you don't pick a forthright, useful, and noble pathway through life, then you'll become bitter and too hurt by the tragedy of existence. You tend to seek your revenge wherever you can get it, and that's not good. So, it's a mistake on all fronts. It's not good for you, it's not good for your family, it's not good for the community, and it's certainly not a good medium to long-term strategy, because life is very, very difficult. You have to be prepared for that. I had a watcher the other night at my lecture in Oslo. He wrote me a letter. He was a 17-year-old boy. He said that my work had been very helpful to him. His father had died suddenly about 6 months before, and he found his dad when he was dying, and was very, very shocked and horrified and hurt by what had happened. I had recommended in my YouTube lectures that one thing you could aim for was to be the strongest person at your father's funeral. So that's what he did. 1. He helped his mom, wrote a 200-word eulogy, and got through it. So good for him. That's strength and necessary. It's a terrible thing that happened, but he did everything he could not to make it any worse than it had to be. But do you never see that? Showing weakness can be a strength too, not weakness, vulnerability. That's a whole different thing. To admit to the fact that you're vulnerable is a form of courage, not a form of weakness. But that leads you to take whatever steps are necessary to deal with that properly. It isn't some facade that you're invulnerable. No one is invulnerable by any stretch of the imagination, and to stand up and face that is the best route. When I made this transition into the business world, what I discovered was, as you were talking a moment ago, you feel the tug on your heart, the kind of, wow, I started here, and now I'm over here. Here's what I believe: as you follow your dream, it begins to get bigger. When it gets bigger, there are more things that you're learning about it that you didn't know when you started. In the beginning of the dream, it's just very little, and you can kind of see it. So you go that way, but then it begins to expand. Yes, and for me, it's a calling. And let me just say this. I'm not trying to be over spiritual, but somebody asked me today what a calling was. And I like my new definition for a call. In fact, in my book Leadership, one of my chapters is shifting from career to calling, how you know and how you make that shift. I think a calling is a purpose with a divine touch. So many times we miss happiness because we think it's out there. So we pursue happiness, and what we need to discover is the fact that happiness is not a place that you go or a status that you attain. Happiness is an inside job. When I am content, happy, satisfied, pleased within myself, then everybody and everything will bring happiness around me. Just as if I'm displeased on the inside, there's nothing that will bring me pleasure or happiness on the outside. Happiness is not an outside job, it's an inside job. Happiness is not something that someone brings to me or gives to me. It's something I bring to myself and give to myself. So give yourself today the gift of happiness. It's your choice. And guess what? The moment you are happy within, there's a whole bunch of happiness that you're going to experience on the outside. The only thing you have to believe in, lean close, hear my words. The only thing you have to believe in right now is that humans are capable of learning. Humans, for whatever reason, nature has chosen not to endow us with a whole bunch of pre-programmed things. For instance, a baby horse, a foal, I believe is how you say that, when they're born, can already walk. Literally, boom, they come out and they're walking, and all is well because that's all hardwired into them. But a horse is a horse is a horse, and they're going to stay a horse, and that's that. You're never going to find a horse reading Chaucer. It's just not going to happen. So all those decisions are pre-wired. Humans, on the other hand, come out and cannot take care of themselves. They are a lump of flesh. They basically know how to suckle, and that's sort of the extent of it. But now, humans have the ability to go in all these crazy different directions. They can learn to become an astrophysicist, a carpenter, a doctor, an astronaut. Like, the number of directions that humans can go in is crazy. The amount of what was once known as junk DNA, we now know, is epigenetic signaling. The way that we can respond in all these different directions to our environment, to the things we choose to focus our energies on, is truly unique to humans. It's just absolutely astonishing. So understanding that that's baked into the human animal is the ability to learn and go in any direction. Once you realize that humans are adaptation machines and that we can learn anything, it's like, okay, whatever you want to do, you can do it as long as you're willing to pay that price. I'm not saying that it's not going to be hard. It is going to be very, very hard. I'm just saying that it is doable and that you will receive a return on investment in your energies. That's what people need to know and believe to the core of their being, that my time in this direction will be rewarded. Now, here's where people mess themselves up. There is this debate about whether or not it is. Hey, am I pre-programmed? I'm good at math, so that's it, and I should go do things that are math. Or I'm good at verbal, and I should go do things that are verbal. I'm naturally gifted as an athlete, so I should go be an athlete. Look, I'm not saying people don't get early wins. People get early wins, and if you happen to love the thing you're getting early wins in, that's awesome, man. You'll find it just a little bit easier. You've got a headwind or a tailwind, I guess. A tailwind. And so that's great, But if the thing that gives you the most energy in life is something that you have no natural inclinations for, go learn. When I say that I have zero natural ability as an entrepreneur, I mean zero. I had to learn everything, from not being lazy to problem solving, to overcoming my paralyzing fear, to looking at the world like a puzzle, to dealing with anxiety. Literally, it was comical as I was going down my journey in the beginning as an entrepreneur to figure this out. It's ridiculous. And then I meet people who are like ripping flowers out of people's front yards and selling them back to them. When I say that that was not me, I had a paper route, and I was so chicken to go up to people's doors that I actually only got half the money that I could have gotten for the same paper route, the same amount of effort. Because I was so afraid to go knock on people's doors and ask to collect the money that was due. For like 2 years, I did a paper route for half the money. That's how much of an entrepreneur I was when I started. So you can learn this stuff. Now, my goals demanded that I learn entrepreneurship, so I learned it. So that's what I want people to understand. What is your goal? Work backwards from there. If it lines up with what you're naturally good at, that's amazing, and congratulations. But there are going to be times where it doesn't line up, and you've just got to either change your goal or recognize that you're going to have to figure these things out. Because I'm an adaptation machine as a human being, I can do all of that. Your DNA is in your dream. Your DNA is in your dream. Stop wasting valuable time. Knowing that if we begin to live our lives as if each day were our last, our lives will take on a whole new meaning, take on a whole new expression. Valuing each moment that we're blessed with. I have been working my whole life, and what I didn't understand by being determined to chase something, by being committed to it. And what commitment is? Commitment to staying true to what you said you were going to do long after the mood you set it in has left. You see, people think commitment is saying, yes, I'll do it on the days when they feel good, but I've been committed to everything I ever started in my life, and I never stopped. And I never quit. By being committed to everything that I started, I finished it. It built a certain type of spirit and mentality and created a certain type of individual. Now, I couldn't quit even if I wanted to. I couldn't give up even if I wanted to. I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. I had too much equity in my life and everything that I was doing because I understood my existence wasn't just about me. I understood the process was more important than the products. It wasn't about the outcome for me, whether I made it to the NFL or not. It was about falling in love with the process. I was going to fall in love with that process because I understood that falling in love with the process was going to turn me into a machine. The next thing that begins to nurture that hunger is honoring yourself as your word. Don't give your word out lightly. When you throw your word out there and you don't honor it, it makes a statement about you. If you decide to maintain a sense of integrity with yourself, if you speak it, you're going to live it. It's who you are, and you need to be very cautious in how you give your word to others. Most of all with the commitments you make to yourself, because you want your life to reflect your work and honor who you are and what you express. Another challenging area in terms of nurturing and developing that hunger in yourself is learning to become single-minded. Learning how to concentrate, learning how to focus. You'll be surprised by the things you are able to do when you learn how to block things out. When you learn how to keep that eye single. You'll be surprised by the ideas that will come to you, the people you'll be able to attract, and the opportunities you'll be able to see. You begin to see things. I've been there, looking at you in the fencing. I can't believe this is video all this time. Here's a habit that I do. Maybe it might be of some value to you. I get up in the morning and start writing what great ideas I can think of that can improve me and enable me to reach my goal. I just let my mind flow. Sometimes I write 15 or 20 ideas. Some days it's more difficult than others. One idea can change your life. One idea can turn your life around. Deciding that you're going to focus on developing your skills. The guy who was the new owner of a baseball team that was in the basement of the league when he took it over, went to the pitcher and asked, "What is your best throw?" The pitcher said, "Well, I've got a good curveball and a good fastball." The owner asked, "But tell me this, what is your best throw?" The pitcher thought for a moment and said, "I've got a good fastball." The owner said, "That's all I want you to work on," said, "I want you to work on." The owner said, "That's all you to work. Nothing else. Just develop your fastball." The next year, they went to the World Series. Most people don't know where their fastball is. Most people go through life never discovering what their talents are. Most people never develop their talents. They have skills and abilities, but if you don't nurture them and develop them, they will never serve you. Your gifts can take you many places if you develop them. Most of us don't like to do things that come too easy to us. I've always loved talking to people. I decided to take this advice and develop my skills as a speaker, and my gift has developed and taken me many places. You have something that you brought to the universe, and if you decide that your life deserves your developing what you do well and becoming the best at it, mastering yourself and seeing what you have within you. If you decide to drop your buckets where you are and develop your gifts, I guarantee you'll never be without. I guarantee that your gifts will take you places that will literally amaze you. I guarantee that if you begin to work to develop your gifts, you'll develop a strong sense of happiness. You'll get a larger vision of yourself, because part of beginning to get a larger vision of yourself is having an area where you have a feeling of competence. That people know when they think about this area, that it's something you do, that you eat and sleep and do, that people know it, and you know it. You know that you know this. If you don't know anything else, you know this. Can you tell I know what I'm doing? Hello, you know this. So you've got to work on it. When other folks are having a good time, you've got to have the strength of character to concentrate, to read, to digest information. If you decide in any particular area that you're concerned about to make a conscious, deliberate, determined effort to read one book a month in that area, in 5 years you'll be among the top 5% experts in the world. I read a minimum of 2 books a week. The average American reads only 1 book a year. If you decide that you are going to master a particular area in this era of accelerated change, overwhelming complexity and tremendous competition, as you begin to develop and expand your skills, your talents, and your vision of yourself, you will always be in control of your destiny. We go to school for all these years, and they never really show us the importance of a dream. I look at school and am like, the way school is designed is to prepare you to work for somebody else. I'm not even upset about that. But there's little of you that you get to work with because it's a deep problem. So I said to my son, I gotta ask you a question. And I'm being serious. Do you believe you created yourself? He said. What? I asked again. Do you believe you created yourself? He said. No. I asked, do you believe there's a creator? He said. Of course I do, I said. Don't do the dab then. He said, don't do the dab then. You know who I am. And you know I'm about that life. Don't answer like I'm asking you for real. You owe me nothing. Do you believe that there's something out here that's bigger than you? He said. Of course, I think, I asked. Do you believe as a human being, not in a braggadocious way, but that you are the greatest level of all creation? He asked. Well, like me, I said. Yes. Like you. Better than a deer. He said, yes, like you. Better than a deer. He said, yes, better than a deer. I asked, do you believe as a human, you're just here to be in a relationship, have sex and have money and buy stuff? And me, I must. He was like, no, I said. Then why have you never gone after something greater? Why have you spent so much time worrying about a relationship, money, cars and stuff? If you really believe what you just told me, that as a human, there is something greater, then why aren't you pursuing that? He was like, I don't know, I said. Here's the trick, son. If you get this, you still might not get it all, but I'm just being real with you. I think it's a fabulous place, but I didn't walk in there like it was the mountains that made me go, oh, whoa. It was really when I saw the birds flying that I was like, unbelievable. It wasn't really the room that impressed me. As a matter of fact, the guy was getting on my nerves. When you pay money to go somewhere, they try to do the old personable thing. I might drop a dime on it all. Just give me the keys, and if I have problems when I get to my room, I'll call you. Bye. Bye. I'm having a conversation with my son. I say, son, do me a huge favor. Don't go after low-hanging fruit. Here's the deal. If you get to the top of the tree, all the food from the bottom to the top is going to be there. So I don't need you focusing on cars, money, and stuff. You're going to get that. I need you to focus on why you were born in the first place. Why are you here on Earth for this particular time? What are you doing here? Anybody can buy a car. Son, animals get into relationships. Animals have sex and have kids. Son, it's gotta be deeper than that. If you're higher than a human, then why you're here. You've got to do more than what animals do. Then no. So when they talk about dreams and legacy, I'm like, well, don't get. Write this down. Your DNA is in your dream. Your DNA is in your dream. It was funny. I was walking with CJ the other day and we were talking. I promise you, every single time we talk, I don't care when it is or how long we talk, we always talk about the relationship he had with his father. I know the impact it had on his kid. His DNA, his brain, his DNA. That's all he cares about, his son. When we go out, I never see him dressed in a certain way. He never says, hold on, I gotta get the polo shirt. Every time I talk to him, it's the same thing. His DNA, his dream, his kids have formed his life and who he is as a man. Most of y'all are chasing stuff, and you don't realize your dreams are so important because your DNA, who you are as a person, is wrapped up in your dreams. What this world has done to you is take that from you, because they know if you know who you are, and you get your dream, probably won't work for most of them. You probably won't do most of the dumb stuff. If you knew your dreams and followed them, you'd follow your DNA. Most of you probably remember being on drugs. I've never met a person who knew who they were and was on drugs. So many people ask me how to love yourself. How do you love yourself, Louise? I talk about it all the time, so I made a list of how to love yourself. It's even available in poster and postcard form now. Number 1 on the list of how to love yourself is to stop all criticism. Just stop it now and forever. Make a vow to yourself that you will do your very best to stop criticizing yourself first and then others. It will be a lot easier to stop criticizing other people when you stop criticizing yourself. Number 2 is to stop scaring yourself. How often do you terrorize yourself with your own thoughts? You get into absolute terror and it's only coming from your thoughts. Nobody out there is doing a thing. Sometimes it's an old family pattern and sometimes it's new. For instance, how many people here are terrified of earthquakes? How often do you create that kind of fear for yourself? We find so many ways to scare ourselves. I'd like you to make a list of your fears and then turn each fear into a positive affirmation. Remember always that you are in charge. One idle thought doesn't make much difference, but thoughts are like drops of water. If you keep dropping water on a table, it eventually forms a puddle. Similarly, our thoughts accumulate. We can drown in a sea of negativity or float on the ocean of life. It's up to us. When we're willing to change our thinking, we can change our experiences. Even if you have a big puddle of negative thoughts, you can move over and create a puddle of mindful positive thoughts. You can always make changes. Turn those fear thoughts into positive affirmations and let them work for you. Consider your last thoughts before going to bed. Are they powerful, healing thoughts or thoughts of worry and poverty? When I speak of poverty thoughts, I don't mean just a lack of money. It can be a negative way of thinking about any part of your life that isn't flowing freely. Do you worry about tomorrow? I usually read something positive before I go to sleep, knowing that when I sleep, I am doing a lot of clearing that prepares me for the next day. I find it very helpful to turn over any problems or questions I may have to my dream. I believe my dreams will help me take care of whatever is going on in my life. I am the only person who can think in my mind, just as you are the only person who can think in your mind. Nobody can force us to think differently. We choose our thoughts, and these form the basis for our self-talk. As I experienced how this process worked in my life, I began to live more of what I was teaching others. I carefully watched my words and thoughts, constantly forgave myself for not being perfect, and allowed myself to be me rather than struggling to be a super person who may only be acceptable in others' eyes. When I first began to trust life and see it as a friendly place, my humor became less biting and more genuinely funny. I worked on releasing criticism and judgment of myself and others and stopped telling disaster stories. We are so quick to spread bad news, it's amazing. I stopped reading the newspaper and watching the 11:00 news because they focused mostly on disaster and violence, with very little good news. I realized that most people don't want to hear good news. They love to hear bad news so they have something to complain of. Too many of us recycle negative stories until we believe that there's only bad in the world. For a while, there was a radio station that broadcast only good news, but it went out of business. When I had cancer, I decided to stop gossiping, and to my surprise, I found I had nothing to say to anyone. I became aware that whenever I met a friend, I would immediately share the latest gossip. Eventually, I discovered there were other ways to talk. Although it wasn't an easy habit to break, I realized that if I gossiped about other people, then other people probably gossiped about me, because what we give out, we get back. As I worked more with people, I really began to listen to what they said. I began to hear the words, not just get the general drift. Usually, after 10 minutes with a new client, I could tell exactly why they had a problem because I could hear the words they were using. I understood them by the way they were talking and knew that their words were contributing to their problem. If they were talking negatively, imagine what their self-talk was like. It must be more of the same negative programming, or poverty thinking, as I call it. A little exercise I suggest is to put a tape recorder by your telephone. Every time you make or receive a call, push the record button. When the tape is full on both sides, listen to what you've been saying and how you say it. You will probably be amazed. You will begin to hear the words you use and the inflection of your voice. You will start to become aware of patterns. If you find yourself saying something 3 times or more, write it down because it is a pattern. Some patterns may be positive and supportive, and you may also have some very negative patterns that you repeat over and over again. Regarding the power of the subconscious mind, it makes no judgment. The subconscious mind accepts everything we say and creates according to our beliefs. It always says yes. Our subconscious minds love us enough to give us what we declare. We have a choice. If we choose poverty beliefs and concepts, the subconscious assumes we want them and will continue to give us these things until we are willing to change our thoughts, words, and beliefs for the better. We are never stuck because we can always choose again. There are billions of thoughts to choose from. Our subconscious minds don't know true from false or right from wrong. We don't want to deprecate ourselves in any way. Avoid saying things like, "Oh, stupid old me," because the subconscious mind will pick up this self-talk, and after a while, you will feel that way. If you say it enough times, it will become a belief in your subconscious. The subconscious mind has no sense of humor, and it's important to understand this concept. You cannot make a joke about yourself and think it doesn't mean anything. Even if you're trying to be cute or funny, the subconscious mind accepts it as true. I don't let people make put-down jokes in my workshops. They can be raunchy but not derogatory towards a nationality, gender, or anything else. Don't joke about yourself or make derogatory remarks about yourself because they will not create good experiences for you. Don't belittle others either. The subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between you and others. It hears the words and believes you are talking about yourself. The next time you want to criticize someone, ask why you feel that way about yourself. You only see in others what you see in yourself. Instead of criticizing others, praise them. And within a month, you will see enormous change within yourself. Our words reflect our approach and attitude. Notice how lonely, unhappy, poor, or sick people talk. What words do they use? What have they accepted as the truth for themselves? How do they describe themselves? Their work, their lives, their relationship. What do they look forward to? Be aware of their words, but don't tell strangers that they are ruining their lives by the way they talk. Don't do this to your family and friends either, because the information will not be appreciated. Instead, use this information to begin making connections for yourself and practice it. If you want your life to change, start by changing how you talk. Even on the smallest level, changing the way you talk will change your experiences. If you are a person with an illness who believes it is fatal, and that life is no good because nothing ever works for you, then you can choose to release your negative concept of life. Start affirming that you are lovable and worth healing, and that you attract everything you need on the physical level to contribute to your healing. Know that you are willing to get well, and that it is safe for you to get well. There is a law of thinking, and we are beginning to learn about it. It's like a computer. If you have a gorgeous computer in front of you and don't know what to do with it, it's a piece of junk. But if you learn the language of the computer, miracles happen. That's what the law of thinking is. When you learn how it works, miracles happen. What you think and believe will come true for you. Your thoughts create your life. It's that simple. And when we understand this, we can make enormous changes. You start by doing what we call affirmations, making positive statements about your life deliberately. You might do them in the morning, at noon, at night, or even twice a day. You make this a habit. And as you start to do them, things will begin to change, perhaps on a very small level. I call it getting the green lights in the parking places. While these may not be huge things, it can be very nice when you get 3 green lights in a row when you're in a hurry. Doing an affirmation involves writing it down, writing it on the wall or mirror, or simply saying it. I like people to stand in front of a mirror and do their affirmations because there's something very powerful about looking into your own eyes and accepting yourself, or noticing that you reject yourself when saying something positive. A good way to start is to say in the morning, I love you. I really, really love you, as you look in the mirror. This can be challenging for many people because they focus on what they perceive as their flaws, but starting your day with this affirmation is very powerful. Life is so difficult and challenging that unless you give it everything you have, the chances are very high that it will embitter you, and then you'll be a force for darkness rather than good. The fact that life is short and can be brutal can terrify you into hiding and avoiding challenges. But you can also flip that on its head and understand that since you're all in anyway, you might as well take adventurous risks. That's a very good thing to understand. What is also useful to understand is that there isn't anything more adventurous than the truth. This is something that took me a long time to figure out. While you can craft your words to get what you want, and people do that all the time, they do so to avoid taking responsibility for things they should. They craft words to gain an advantage that they don't really deserve. That's what happens when you manipulate. The problem with manipulation is that you're not necessarily the best judge of what you need, and it's easy to be deluded about what you want. These delusions are what people chase when they pursue power. If you decide instead to simply say what you believe to be true, you have to let go of the consequences. You might think, I don't want to let go of the consequences because I want to control what's going on. But what you miss then is adventure. If you don't control what's going on, you don't know what will happen, and maybe that's exciting, there's no doubt about it. Additionally, if you're attempting to say what you believe to be true and act in the manner you think is most appropriate, that's genuinely you, and you have the force of reality behind you. That seems like a good deal. You have reality and adventure. So why is that a moral obligation? If you hide and don't let what's inside you out, and you don't bring into the world what you could, you become cynical and bitter. You will not only fail to add to the world what you could, but you'll also start being jealous of people who are competent and doing well, working to destroy them. That's the pathway to hell. How do you know who you are? You are complex beyond your own understanding. More complex than anything else that exists. Accepting other people as complex beyond belief, your ignorance is further complicated by the intermingling of who you are with who you could be. You are not only something that is, but also something that is becoming, and the potential extent of that becoming transcends your understanding. Everyone has a sense that there is more to them than they have yet realized. That potential is often obscured by poor health, misfortune, and the general tragedies and mishaps of life, but it can also be hidden by an unwillingness to take full advantage of opportunities, regrettable errors of all sorts, including failures of discipline, faith, imagination, and commitment. Who are you, more importantly? Who could you be if you were everything you could conceivably be? Are such questions impossible to answer? Or are there sources available to us from which guidance might be derived? After all, we have been observing ourselves in our successes and failures for perhaps hundreds of thousands of years. During that time, our shamans, prophets, mystics, artists, poets, and bards have distilled something vital from such observation, some concentrated essence of what makes us human in actuality and possibility. They have provided us with representations of that vital essence, presenting itself to us as something that can neither be ignored nor forgotten. These creative individuals write and act out dramas and tell stories that capture our imagination, filling our dreams with visions of what might be. The deepest and most profound of these are remembered, discussed, and honed collectively, forming the very basis of our culture. These are the stories upon which the ritual, religious, and philosophical edifices characterizing sophisticated, populous, successful societies are built. The stories we cannot ignore or forget speak to something we know, but do not fully understand. The ancient Greek philosopher Socrates believed that all learning was a form of remembering. Socrates posited that the soul, immortal in its essence, knew everything before it was born. However, at the point of birth, all previous knowledge was forgotten and had to be recalled through the experiences of life. There is much to be said for this hypothesis. Strange as it might seem, there is much that we could do, much that our bodies and minds are capable of doing, that remains dormant right down to the genetic level. Exposure to new experiences activates this dormant potential, releasing abilities built into us over the vast span of our evolutionary history. This is perhaps the most basic manner in which our bodies retain past wisdom and draw upon it when necessary. It is in this way, although not only in this way, that human possibility exists. Thus, there is something profound in the concept of learning as remembering. Obviously, learning involves turning on innate but hidden possibilities. We can learn much that is new. This is one of the primary factors differentiating us from animals. Even complex and intelligent mammals such as chimpanzees and dolphins tend to repeat their species' typical behaviors generation after generation with very little change. Humans, by contrast, continually seek out and encounter what is new, investigate and adapt to it, and make it part of themselves. We can also translate something we already know at one level of representation into knowledge. Another, we can observe the actions of a living creature, animal, or human, and then imitate them, translating our perceptions of their movement into new movements of our own. We can generalize such imitative acts, catching the spirit of what or whom we are observing and producing new ways of seeing and acting that are similar to that spirit. This forms the basis of the deeply embodied implicit knowledge that contributes to our true understanding. We can observe someone act or something occur, write down what we see, translating action into language that outlasts its utterance, and then communicate it later in the absence of what or whom is being described. Finally, and most mysteriously, we can imagine and then act out something that has simply not been seen before, something truly original. We can code and represent all that ability, adaptive action, and its transformation in the stories we tell about those we admire, as well as those we hate. That is how we determine who we are and who we could perhaps become. Stories become unforgettable when they communicate sophisticated modes of being, complex problems, and equally complex solutions that we perceive consciously in pieces but cannot fully articulate. Aim at something. Pick the best target you can currently conceptualize. Stumble toward it. Notice your errors and misconceptions along the way. Face them and correct them. Get your story straight, past, present, future. They all matter. You need to map your path. You need to know where you were, so you do not repeat the mistakes of the past. You need to know where you are, or you will not be able to draw a line from your starting point to your destination. You need to know where you are going, or you will drown in uncertainty, unpredictability and chaos, and starve for hope and inspiration. For better or worse, you are on a journey. You are having an adventure, and your map better be accurate. Voluntarily confront what stands in your way, the way that is the path of life, the meaningful path of life, the straight and narrow path that constitutes the very border between order and chaos. And traversing it brings them into balance. Aim at something profound, noble, and lofty. If you can find a better path along the way, once you have started moving forward, then switch course. Be careful though, it is not easy to discriminate between changing paths and simply giving up. One hint, if the new path you see forward after learning what you needed to learn along your current way appears more challenging, then you can be reasonably sure that you are not deluding or betraying yourself when you change your mind. You will zigzag forward. It is not the most efficient way to travel, but there is no real alternative, given that your goals will inevitably change while you pursue them. As you learn what you need to learn and discipline yourself, you will find yourself turning across time incrementally and gracefully to aim ever more accurately at that tiny pinpoint, the X that marks the spot, the bullseye and the center of the cross. Aim at the highest value of which you can conceive. You will pursue a target that is both moving and receding. Moving because you do not have the wisdom to aim in the proper direction when you first take aim. And receding because no matter how close you come to perfecting what you are currently practicing, new vistas of possible perfection will open up in front of you. Discipline and transformation will nonetheless lead you inexorably forward. With will and luck, you will find a story that is meaningful and productive, improves itself with time, and perhaps even provides you with moments of satisfaction and joy. With will and luck, you will be the hero of that story, the disciplined sojourner, the creative transformer, and the benefactor of your family and broader society. Imagine who you could be, and then aim single-mindedly at that. I am connected to an unlimited source of abundance. I forgive everyone, including myself. My essential nature is perfect and faultless. I nourish my mind, body, and soul. I relax and enjoy life. I am a divinely healthy and fit human being. I choose to feel peaceful. I am realistic and expect miracles. I am an infinite being. The age of my body has no bearing on what I do or who I am. I have the ability to accomplish any task I set my mind to with ease and comfort. I forgive myself, and then I move on. I am ready and willing for miracles to enter my life. I know there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. I work at eliminating all my judgments of others. I pay attention to my inner callings and apply my own uniqueness to everything I undertake. It is through selfless action that I experience my own fulfillment. I live in accordance with nature, and therefore never go against the way of things. The usefulness of what is depends upon what is, not what is not. I choose to ignore the seductive lure of acquisition and fame. I am a magnet for success and good fortune. Whatever I need is already here, and it is all for my highest good. I matter, and what I have to offer this world also matters. I release the inclination to make anyone else wrong. I am happy. I am kind. I am perfect. I am safe, and I am loved. I see myself as everything. I love myself as everyone, discovering how things have always been, bringing me into harmony with the way. The place of my origin is stillness, from which all creation originates. Amidst the rush of worldly comings and goings, I observe how all endings become beginnings. I fully trust that others know what is best for them. I act virtuously. I do not need rules to be kind and just. I am moral, profitable, and a genius extraordinaire, regardless of what any transcript or bank statement might say. I resist any brokenness by being flexible and bend when storms appear. In all of nature, no storm can last forever. I come from greatness. I attract greatness. I am greatness. I have the ability to stay poised and centered regardless of what goes before me. As I preserve my original qualities, I can do or govern anything. I live with radical humility. There's a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, and a time for being at rest. There is a time for being vigorous and a time for being exhausted. I allow my highest nature to come forward by bringing love to the places where I used to live in hatred. By not claiming greatness, I achieve greatness. I live in a divinely inspired universe. I have nothing to fear. I trust in myself. I give my problems to the great mind of God. I let go of them, confident that the correct answers will come to me when needed. I have the potential to do anything that I want. I'm getting better and better at this. I can already tell that things are getting better. I know that the universe is abundant. I am loved. I am doing the best that I can. All is well in my world. Life is taking care of me at all times. I am solely responsible for my emotions. My thoughts are only what they should be, loving, kind, and compassionate. I know that I am coming closer into alignment with what I want. I love knowing that I am the creator of my own reality. I love knowing that I can dream big. I like understanding the laws of the universe. Everything is always working out for me. I always have everything I need, every day, in every way. I'm getting better and better. The more I concentrate on what I want rather than what I don't want, the more quickly it comes to me. I am divinely guided and protected at all times. I am a powerful creator. I invite good feelings into my body now. I'm going to live happily ever after. I love myself unconditionally. I'm enjoying the journey because I know where I'm going. I am a powerful creative being and I create my life with intention. I deserve the best life has to offer. My thoughts are healthy and positive. They help me create the life I want. I am surrounded by joy and love. My mind is clear, calm, happy, healthy, and peaceful. The only thing that can interfere with the good in my life is me. I have the ability to focus. I have the ability to put my thoughts where they feel best. I always do my best, and it's enough for me to know that I'll ask and expect it to be given, and I'll watch for the evidence of it. I love me. I am lovable. I am love. I am choosing to feel good. I've asked, it's lined up, and I'll know it when I see it. I am eternal. I like where I am, and I like where I've been, and am over the moon about where I'm going. What I focus on attracts things that match it. Whatever I want can flow to me. My relationship with my inner being is my strongest partnership. No matter where I am, I have the ability to focus in a way that is pleasing to me. I'm doing well, and it's getting better. Things are always working out for me, and I can take it a little easier. I'm going to turn this over to the universe. I trust that I am figuring this out. I love being the clear example that I am. I love offering my vibration deliberately, and I love watching all the universal factors lining things up. It is my dominant intention to feel the way I want to feel. I want it and I expect it. Feeling better is the manifestation I am reaching for. I am to live happily ever after. I am the only one responsible for how I feel. I'm enjoying the journey because the destination is certain. Right now, I am going to find the best feeling thought that I can. I'm going to reach for more relief, more relief, more relief. I'm moving closer to what I want. I'm figuring it out. It's getting better. Life has helped me to know that I want that. And I'm looking forward to watching the natural unfolding of it because I've asked for it and it's done. It's all right and all is well. I'm getting there. I know I'm good at what I do. I know that I always figure things out. I know that things work out for me. The happier I am, the better things get. I like knowing that all results I seek are easily achievable. I know it is my destiny to feel good. In source energy in a human body, and I get what I want. I love knowing that joy is simply a choice. I was destined for a life of fulfillment and never-ending joy. Where I am is constantly changing to something better. In my appreciation, I allow myself to receive wonderful things. I am the creator of my mood, therefore, I am the creator of my day. If I want it, I can attract it. Simple. I love knowing that it doesn't matter what's going on right now, because I can keep telling the new story. I don't know how it's going to come. I just know it's going to come, because it always does. On the path, and the path is unfolding. I'm whole. I'm strong and happy, I'm sure, and am alive and glad to be. Am good at what I do, and I'm blessed. Am tended to, I'm seen, am heard, and am all is well. Everything is all right. Yenta, Walmir. You will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. And you will not succeed at something. There's no doubt about it. Embrace it because it's inevitable. Direction determines destination. Your destination is not determined by hope or wish. It's determined by direction. You know, every time you lose at something, you're one step closer to winning the next time. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people don't give up. Successful people wake up every morning with doubts and fears, but they don't let these setbacks stop. Whether they're losing a race or facing a challenge, they don't give up. The hardest thing in life to learn is how to handle losing. Winning is easy. You win, you're happy, you get a high five, and your friends are happy. But it's your ability to take a loss. Get up the next day, dust yourself off, and keep going. I have experienced every type of loss you can imagine. Seriously, I've been beaten down, and everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for me. But here's the thing, I didn't quit and I didn't fall back. If you're facing a challenge, don't stop. Stay busy, work your plan, and keep doing the things that you know work for you. After you've evaluated yourself and your situation, continue to move forward. Stay busy, stay busy, stay busy. I prayed, and I continue to pray. But I kept failing and failing and failing. It didn't matter because, as the saying goes, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're going to get a haircut. So you will catch a break, and I did catch a break. If you constantly remind yourself after every defeat, every setback, every time you get knocked down, remember this. If life knocks you down, try to land on your back. Because if you can look up, you can get up. Many people stop believing after failure, but let me share something with you. You will fail your way to success. Yes, even the United States millionaires have faced financial bankruptcy. You will fail your way to success. It doesn't matter how many times you fail. How many times people tell you that you can't do it, or if you don't have a dime in the bank. You will fail your way to success. You cannot change your destination overnight, which means you can't arrive at a 5-year goal tomorrow. However, what you can change today and overnight is your direction. One of the biggest challenges people face is that while everyone wants a better quality of life and greater success, almost all of us get stuck at times. Sometimes something stops us from doing what we are truly capable of, whether it's transforming our health, changing a relationship, improving our finances, or finding happiness and fulfillment at a new level. We get stuck with the belief of how we're not supposed to be, what we're not supposed to do, what people won't accept, or what we're not capable of or what we're not capable. Or maybe we get stuck in an emotional pattern, just being pissed off, frustrated, worried, sad, or overwhelmed. Sometimes we get stuck, not so much in anything specific, but just in some habits of doing things a certain way. What a breakthrough is that moment in time where there's an opening. The opening can come from a conversation, from meeting somebody who inspires you, or from an insight. It can come from watching a movie and being moved emotionally. Just that right moment. It usually comes because something kind of clicked inside of us. Something snapped us and made us look at life through a different filter, in a different way. It's a real breakthrough because you take that little insight, that little distinction, that little moment, or maybe that little or big emotion inside of you that says no more. I'm going to change this. And suddenly you do something to make your life better. You break out of the impossibility of life having to be this way or a life controlling you. and you start to take back control of your life. You start to make the shift that creates the quality of life that you really deserve. Everybody experiences extreme stress at some point in their life. I don't care who we are, something happens outside our control, and it hits our life and knocks us on our tail. It might be health stress or something with your family, economic, career, or emotional. There are so many things it could be, biochemical or environmental situations that have nothing to do with you. Every one of us in our lifetime experiences extreme stress. And these days, because of the economy and the way we've responded to it, the majority of people are experiencing some form of extreme stress, at least according to Pulse. Stress doesn't come from the facts. Stress comes from the meaning that we give the facts. Yes, those things have happened, but the real question is, if we fight what's happened, we've got a problem. Like, from what are we going to do with what's happened in our life? How are we going to take this? How are we going to mold it? How are we going to turn our life around? Because when you come up with a new meaning, you get a new life. So what are we going to do in this session? Well, in this session, we're going to take a look at something from a different perspective. We're going to ask you this question: what is the single force that controls the quality of your life? If there was one gift our Creator has given us, or the universe, whatever you believe, what is it? What is the one power that you have right now, in this moment, that can change everything? You have it. I have it. We all have it. It's the one singular individual power that can change anything in our life, regardless of what's happened to us. And I know you know the answer. The answer is the power of choice. The one thing we have in this world is that we can't control the events, but we can choose what to focus on. We can choose what things mean. And we can choose what to do. Those three choices, those three decisions, really control our life. It's not so much the conditions of our life that control our destiny, as much as the decisions of our life. Try for a second to think about something. Think about your life and just think about, are there a few decisions, if I were to ask you 2 decisions, you've made in life? You know that if you had made a different decision, you would have had a totally different life. But you won't be able to do it when you're telling yourself the sky is falling and it's over. Seeing it worse than it is, you'll just give up and won't do it. If you don't tell yourself the truth, if you don't acknowledge that the system isn't working, that you need to change your finances, your job, or reassess, if you don't deal with the truth, the real truth, nothing's going to happen when you fight life and go. Here is the revised text with corrections made without adding or removing words. I should be a singer or not. If you're a mom with 5 kids, you've got a problem. You fight life and say, you know, the economy should be different. You're going to be stressed. Deal with what is without exaggeration, with total honesty. Deal with the cards you've been dealt. Come up with a vision, find a role model that shows your strategy works, work your tail off, give, keep changing your approach, and you can get where you want to go. Make sense. And a while. Whatever you have produced came out of you as a result of the kind of person you had become, as a result of your choices, as a result of your consciousness. Now, you have to ask yourself, are you satisfied with what you have produced? Is this what you want? Would you like things to be better than this? Do you believe you deserve better than this? Are you content with this being it? You don't have to do anything else, but are you ready to resign yourself to it? Saying, well, I'm happy. I'm not starving like the people in Calcutta. No, saying no way, Paul. Are you allowing yourself to get off the hook like that? Or do you believe, somewhere in the back of your mind or in your heart, that there's some other great work for you to do? Is there something else that life has for you? And that's why you're here. How do we handle this fear factor? How do we increase our self-esteem? You have to begin to fortify yourself. How do we do that? I believe you have to begin to consciously monitor your inner conversation and start talking to yourself. Start building yourself up sometimes. The only good things you will hear about yourself are the things you say to yourself. So I'm saying, learn to be your own booster. Start building yourself up. Start encouraging yourself and start saying, I can do this. I can make this happen. It's a natural inclination for us to put ourselves down. We are born with a negative consciousness because we live in a negative world. So we have to work through the challenges of life and learn how to begin to guard our minds against negative programming. Turn off the television. You've got to guard the kinds of things you put in your mind. See, if you don't program your mind will be programmed because human beings are goal-oriented. That's why we die of broken hearts early. That's why we're running through life too early to the grave. Most of us go through life running scared, so we create this in our minds. False evidence appearing real. We make it real in our minds. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. That's the destructive monster. So turn off things that can contribute to your fear. Turn a deaf ear to people who can only talk about how negative things are because they have bought into the consciousness of the world. Listen to things that can empower you, that can enable you to create a new reality for yourself, a new life for yourself. What idea are you sitting on? Write your ideas down. And once you get that idea, take the lead. See, a lot of people get ideas and just walk around with them. Take the lead. It's out in the universe. If you don't take the plunge, I guarantee you someone else will. Go into action, and ladies and gentlemen, you will be surprised how things will come together. You'll be surprised. Now, you're going to have some difficult challenges. I can tell you that now. Be aware of that. Things are not going to work out exactly right every time. They will sometimes, and that's when life is just playing the game with you. But ladies and gentlemen, go into action with your dream and don't avoid where the fights are. Get in the midst of the fight. Get some bruises. Get knocked down so you can learn how to fight and hold your position. See, Karaman, and stay away. Amor, heist. Most people don't get out in the arena of life because they don't want to fight. Most people don't get out there because they don't want to get knocked down. They don't want to be dropped to their knees. But see, you're going to be dropped whether you are on the field or sitting on the sidelines. You're going to be dropped, so at least get dropped with something. Don't get knocked down while you're sitting down. See, most people are spectators in life. You don't want to be a spectator. You want to get out in the field where the action is. You will be amazed. After the struggle, there will be a calm period and things will begin to click for you. Come out here with what you've got. You don't have enough money. Don't worry about it. You've got the dream. You've got the idea. You don't have enough resources. Don't worry. You need some help. Don't worry about it. Get out here in the arena and someone will look at you, become inspired and say, "Hey, can I help you?" But if you're sitting up in the bleachers, nobody's going to ask you anything. The will, too, is the greatest power in the world that is concerned with human accomplishment, and no one can in advance determine its limits. The things that we do now would have been, few ages ago, impossibilities. Today, the safe maxim is that all things are possible. The will to do is a force that is strictly practical, yet it is difficult to explain just what it is. It can be compared to electricity because we know it only through its cause and effect. It is a power we can direct, and to just the extent we direct it, do we determine our future. Every time you accomplish any definite act, consciously or unconsciously, you use the principle of the will. You can will to do anything, whether it is right or wrong, and therefore the way you use your will makes a big difference in your life. Every person possesses some will to do. It is the inner energy which controls all conscious acts. What you will to do directs your life forces. All habits, good or bad, are the result of what you will to do. You improve or lower your condition in life by what you will to do. Your will has a connection with all avenues of knowledge, all activities, all accomplishment. You probably know of cases where people have shown wonderful strength under some excitement, similar to the following. The house of a farmer's wife caught on fire. No one was around to help her move anything. She was a frail woman and ordinarily was considered weak. On this occasion, she removed things from the house that it later took 3 men to handle. It was the will, too, that she used to accomplish her task. Genius is but a will to do little things with infinite pains. Little things well done open the door of opportunity for bigger things. The will accomplishes its greater results through activities that grow out of great concentration. In acquiring the power of voluntary attention to such an extent that we can direct it where we will and hold it steadily to its task until our aim is accomplished. When you learn so to use it, your willpower becomes a mighty force. Almost everything can be accomplished through its proper use. It is greater than physical force because it can be used to control not only physical but mental and moral forces. There are very few that possess perfectly developed and balanced willpower, but those who do easily crush out their weak qualities. Study yourself carefully, find out your greatest weakness, and then use your willpower to overcome it. In this way, eradicate your faults one by one until you have built up a strong character and personality. Rules for improvement. A desire arises. Now, think whether this would be good for you. If it is not, use your willpower to kill out the desire. But on the other hand, if it is a righteous desire, summon all your willpower to your aid. Crush all obstacles that confront you and secure possession of the coveted good. Slowness in making decisions is a weakness of willpower. You know you should do something, but you delay doing it through lack of decision. It is easier not to do a certain thing than to do it, but conscience says to do it. The vast majority of persons are failures because of the lack of deciding to do a thing when it should be done. Those who are successful have been quick to grasp opportunities by making a quick decision. This power of will can be used to bring culture, wealth, and health. Some special pointers for the next week. Try to make quicker decisions in your little daily affairs. Set the hour you wish to get up and rise exactly at the fixed time. Anything that you should accomplish, do on or ahead of time. You want, of course, to give due deliberation to weighty matters, but by making quick decisions on little things, you will acquire the ability to make quick decisions in bigger things. Never procrastinate. Decide quickly, one way or the other, even at the risk of deciding wrong. Practice this for a week or two and notice your improvement. The lack of initiative also keeps many men from succeeding. They have fallen into the way of imitating others in all that they do. Very often we hear the expression, "He seems clever enough, but he lacks initiative." Life for them is one continuous grind. Day after day, they go through the same monotonous round of duties, while those who are getting along are using their initiative to get a greater fullness of life. There is nothing so responsible for poverty as this lack of initiative, this power to think and do for ourselves. You are as good as anyone. You have willpower, and if you use it, you will get your share of the luxuries of life. So use it to claim your own. Don't depend on anyone else to help you. We have to fight our own battles. All the world loves a fighter, while the coward is despised by all. Every person's problems are different. So I can only say analyze your opportunities and conditions, study your natural abilities, form plans for improvement, and then put them into operation. Now, as I said before, don't just say, "I'm going to do so and so." Carry your plan into execution. Don't make an indefinite plan, but a definite one. And then don't give up until your object has been accomplished. Put these suggestions into practice with true earnestness, and you will soon note astonishing results, and your whole life will be completely changed. An excellent motto for one of pure motives is, "Through my willpower, I dare do what I want to." You will find this affirmation has a very strengthening effect. The spirit of perseverance, the spirit of stick-to-itiveness, is the one that wins. Many go just so far and then give up, whereas if they had persevered a little longer, they would have won out. Many have much initiative, but instead of concentrating it into one channel, they diffuse it through several, thereby dissipating it to such an extent that its effect is lost. Develop more determination, which is only the will to do, and when you start out to do something, stick to it until you get results. Of course, before starting anything, you must look ahead and see what the finish leads to. You must select a road that will lead to somewhere rather than nowhere. The journey must be productive of some kind of substantial results. The trouble with so many young men is that they launch enterprises without any end in sight. It is not so much the start as the finish of a journey that counts. Each little move should bring you nearer the goal which you plan to reach before the enterprise began. Lack of perseverance is nothing but the lack of the will to do. It takes the same energy to say, "I will continue," as to say, "I gave up." Just the moment you say the latter, you shut off your dynamo and your determination is gone. Every time you allow your determination to be broken, you weaken it. Don't forget this. Just the instant you notice your determination beginning to weaken, concentrate on it, and by sheer willpower, make it continue on the job. Never try to make a decision when you are not in a calm state of mind. If in a quick temper, you are likely to say things you afterwards regret. In anger, you follow impulse rather than reason. No one can expect to achieve success if he makes decisions when not in full control of his mental forces. Therefore, make it a fixed rule to make decisions only when at your best. If you have a quick temper, you can quickly gain control over it by the simple rule of counting backward. Count backward requires concentration, and you thus quickly regain a calm state. In this way, you can break the temper habit. It will do you a lot of good to think over what you said and thought the last time you were angry. Persevere until you see yourself as others see you. It would do no harm to write the scene out in story form and then sit in judgment of the character that played your part. Special instructions to develop the will to do. This is a form of mental energy, but requires the proper mental attitude to make it manifest. We hear of people having wonderful willpower, which really is wrong. It should be said that they use their willpower, while with many it is a latent force. I want you to realize that no one has a monopoly on willpower. There is plenty for all. What we speak of as willpower is but the gathering together of mental energy, the concentration of power at one point. So, never think of that person as having a stronger will than yours. Each person will be supplied with just that amount of willpower that he demands. You don't have to develop willpower if you constantly make use of all you have. And remember, the way in which you use it determines your fate. For your life is molded to a great extent by the use you make of your will. Unless you make proper use of it, you have neither independence nor firmness. You are unable to control yourself and become a mere machine for others to use. It is more important to learn to use your will than to develop your intellect. The man that has not learned how to use his will rarely decides things for himself, but allows his resolutions to be changed by others. He fluctuates from one opinion to another, and, of course, does not accomplish anything out of the ordinary, while his brother with the trained will take his place among the world's leaders. You've decided that you're not going to allow your circumstances to define you. You've decided that you're not going to let the events, things, people, or life itself determine who you become. There are two lies we've been told growing up. The first lie is that you're nothing, you're stupid, you're worthless, and you're not going to make it. Many people listening and watching have heard this from teachers, parents, aunts, uncles, or whoever it may be. The other lie, which I don't think is a lie, but can be misconstrued, is that you can be anything. We all know that that's not entirely true. It's unfair because people can be misled. The point of view should be that you can't be anything you want, but you can be everything you are. You have a genius, a potential, a power inside you that you don't yet know. It's not that you're unqualified, it's your inexperience. So, when people say they're stuck, don't know where their life is going, or don't know their purpose, they're perceiving themselves as unqualified or underqualified. Actually, they're just inexperienced. They haven't done enough to let the magnet of their life tell them what it's attracted to. A man is about responsibility. A true man knows he's the head but plays the role of the tail. Here's what I'm asking you to do. Walk away from the 97%. Don't use their vocabulary. Don't use their excuses. Don't go where they go. Don't do what they do. Don't talk like they talk. It's not what happens that determines the major part of your future. The key is what you do about it. If you start the process of change, do something different in the next 90 days than you did in the last 90 days. Like picking up books to read. Since we cannot change the circumstances, but we can change ourselves. What you have at the moment you've attracted by the person you've become. If you change, everything will change for you. To have more, you simply have to become more. Start working on yourself and making these personal changes. It'll all change. You could be given the best opportunity in the world. And if you're not willing to work, nothing works. You want to get your work ethic so high that people actually admire you. I'm going to ask you a question. Do people know you because of your unbelievable work ethic? If you can't answer yes to that, you're not going to make it into the top 10%. People need to know you for one major thing first. He works. The guy's there every day. The guy's pushing and shoving. The truth is, no matter how good your ideas are, or how good your heart is, if you're not working, if you're not vibrating at a frequency that makes people say, my God, how does that guy do all that? If you're not vibrating at that rate, it's just a muscle. Now, it's a discipline in your life. If you're not working at that level, you're not going to make it. Get your work ethic up. It's the American way. Life gives us not what we want, but who we are. When you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice. So now, what else would help you be attractive to the marketplace besides having more than one skill and knowing more than one language? I've divided it into 5 simple, basic fundamentals to ponder that will increase your value to the marketplace. These fundamentals could perhaps, like they did for me, multiply your income by 2, then by 3, then by 4, and then by 5. Once you get there, it's not that difficult to multiply it by 10. All you need to do is ensure you become more valuable. You don't have to work on the economy. Here's the first note. Each person's income is determined primarily by their philosophy, not by the economy. Once I understood that, I realized I didn't have to work on the economy. The answer was no. You only have to work on yourself to make yourself more valuable. Albert Einstein said, imagination is everything. It's the preview to life's coming attractions. But guess what your imagination really is? It's the evidence of things not seen. Your imagination is actually God showing you a preview of a coming attraction He has for you. The moment you don't believe in your imagination, you negate what He has for you. Your imagination is a preview of life's coming attractions. It is the evidence of things not seen because nobody else can see it. You. Your problem is, you keep sharing your imagination with the wrong people. If you want to kill a big dream, tell it to a small-minded person. It's dead. How many times have you had a tremendous idea, something you thought was the one, and then told it to your loved ones or so-called friends, and they shot it down? I mean, you were convinced it was just, oh man, I came to you, and you told me, and they shot it down. You thought that since they were your loved ones and friends and had your best interests at heart, you believed them. You were wrong. They taught you to let them talk you out of what God has for you. Some of you are still sitting here with the ambition of opening a business one day, but you're scared to start because you have a job and bills. Rich people have bills. Everybody has bills. Hell, I had bills. You hear everybody owes somebody something. I have something with the bank right now. Are you going to let the fact that you have some bills stop you from opening the business? The thing that God didn't put in your imagination. You're going to squash that because you have bills. Everybody has bills. Your real life is in your imagination. Music onail hapisamil keel ein that verse. I'll say me chill. Me jang main wang old bomai. That's and say I'll say gorgonil. I'll say. Can you grasp what I'm telling you? I don't know what you thought I was going to say to you. I'm just a real dude. I don't even have the education you all have. I flunked out of school. I don't have any education. I don't use multisyllabic words. The only syllabic word I know is my bank account. What I'm sharing with you is stuff that everybody can apply today. If you're sitting here thinking that you're too old to listen to what Steve says, hell, I'm 60, but I still rely on my imagination. If you think you're too old to make it, let me give you a prime example. Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders had been frying chicken his whole life. He was telling everybody he had the best chicken in the world. But nobody believed him. They turned him down everywhere. Colonel Sanders didn't get a franchise until he was in his 60s. Kentucky Fried Chicken sells more chicken than anybody in the world today. So if you're sitting there thinking you're too late because you have a little gray hair, as long as God is waking you up in the morning, that's a sign he's not done with you. So why are you tripping? You're sitting here like God can't do anything for you because you're 60. Man, you know what I'm asking God for right now, and I'm 60. If you could see my vision board, you'd be blown away. I have enough right now, I really do. But I'm not in the need business, I'm in the want business. There's nothing wrong with wanting something, but don't go down to these churches and let them keep you in these little boxes. God has a big life for you. I love church, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking church. Don't tweet that Steve doesn't care for the church anymore. I didn't say that. But don't go down there just to memorize all these scriptures and not apply any of them to your life. Quit going down there just to go and only get a couple of scriptures to apply to your life. The smallest scripture I ever read changed my life. You have not because you asked not. Man, oincha. Successful people don't use hope as a strategy. When you use the word hope, you're saying you have no power and no control over the outcome. When you give away that responsibility, you also give away that power. You have no control, no choice. People perform better when there is no safety net. People perform better in sports and everything else if they don't have a plan. Biag never had a plan B. Like most of us, we struggled with those things. Curious and saying, you know what, but once I get rich and powerful, then I'll feel good. So while you're striving for success and moving forward, even though you feel insecure a lot, remember it's because you don't have success yet. And that's the key. It means that you've tried. It means that you got up. It means that you overcame your fear by taking action over and over and over. Whatever comes, you'll learn from it. Remember, if you want to be successful, learn from other people's mistakes, not just their success stories. Be self-aware. Remember that you are always learning in life. Believe in yourself. See yourself as capable, lovable, and unconditionally worthy of your future. You can go after whatever you want. You just cannot deny anyone else from pursuing their dreams. You don't have to wait in line. You don't have to do it the way everybody else has done it. You can do it your way. You can break the rules. You just can't get in the way of somebody else getting what they want. The things that define you as successful existed long before you became successful. Your relationship with your family, the health of your body, the ability to command your arm to raise, and it raises, the ability to smell the roses and enjoy laughter, to laugh until your belly hurts, the ability to have faith, to pray, and to believe in the unseen. Figure out who you are, don't apologize for who you are, and then become even greater than you naturally are. So many people float down the river of life without ever even putting their paddles in the water, just hoping, praying, dreaming, and wishing they'll end up somewhere good. That's not how life works. You have paddles in your boat, you just have to learn to use them. Meditation is a process of purifying the mind and making it one-pointed, inward and tranquil. Through meditation, the mind will help you fathom the deeper levels of your being and lead you to the highest state of realization. As an aspirant, it is wise to be vigilant and firm in practicing meditation. Do not expect too much right from the beginning. There is no instant method of meditation. Modern students often expect immediate results from meditation, and this expectation can lead them to fantasize, imagine, and hallucinate experiences they think are spiritual. These experiences are actually products of their subconscious minds. As a result, they may become frustrated and imbalanced, either stopping meditation or following strange methods that can be harmful to their progress. Meditation is a technique with only one approach, a scientific method that is very precise and clear. If you learn to practice meditation systematically, it will not take long for you to reach the summit. provided you understand the whole technique. The first thing is to have a strong burning desire within. When you have a burning desire to meditate, that desire leads you to Sankalpa Shakti, or willpower. You should decide, today, I will meditate. No one has the power to disturb me. Thoughts are products of the mind. They do not define you. If you learn to go beyond the jabbering of your mind and reach the deeper aspects of your consciousness, then body, breath, and mind will not obstruct you. They come in your way because you have not trained them or committed to meditation once and for all. You should set a fixed time for meditation in the morning and before you go to bed. You have been taught to examine things in the external world, but nobody has taught you to look within. There is no other way but the way of meditation. No object in the world has the power to give you what meditation can offer. If you are not inclined to meditate, you should not force yourself. However, if you want to meditate, you must form a habit because habit shapes your character and personality. If you truly want to know who you are, you must remove all masks and be completely honest with yourself. You need to be willing to endure challenges to tread the path of meditation. In the external world, no object can make you truly happy because all objects are subject to change, decay, and decomposition. That which is subject to change and is not everlasting can never provide lasting happiness. It can only give momentary joy, which indicates that true joy exists somewhere else. If you attain everlasting joy, you will be free. It is for that freedom and joy that you strive when you meditate. Do not worry about seeing lights or having visions. You should learn to be at ease in complete darkness so that the gentle light of realization can reveal itself to you. Do not be concerned if you do not see any light or have any experiences. With patience and stillness, the essence of life and light will gradually reveal itself to you. Imagining superficial lights is harmful. Having no experiences in meditation is itself a valuable experience. If you follow the meditation method systematically, you will find that every action has its reaction. It is unscientific to do something and not get results. Whenever you meditate or make an effort to meditate, you are doing something. Do not believe or think that you are not reaping the fruits of your action. Every action has its consequences. Systematic meditation will enhance your faculty of discrimination, or buddhi, which will help you in all aspects of life, both internally and externally. Pay attention to 4 important points: building determination, learning to pray, meditating according to instructions, and not letting your mind be stained by self-created guilt that destroys your inner spiritual potential. Learn to be spiritual in your daily life by performing selfless actions. Meditate daily for a few minutes. Avoid becoming a hypocrite who sits for a long time but hallucinates. Meditate for a few minutes and enjoy life. Meditation therapy is the highest form of self-effort and a probe into inner life that will reveal all its secrets in time. The human being is said to have 3 hearts: one physical, which can be dissected by a surgeon; one psychic, which is guided by an orderly mind; and one spiritual, which controls both heart and mind and is not subject to sorrow, pain, or misery. In the human body, there are 2 hemispheres, upper and lower, and 7 spheres. The connection between these hemispheres is called the Anahata chakra, the spiritual heart. This chakra is located in the space between the 2 breasts and is represented by 2 interlocking triangles. The upward pointing triangle represents human endeavor, while the downward pointing triangle represents the grace of God, or the descending force. Together, they form a star, the Star of David in Jewish tradition, the Cross of the Sacred Heart in Christian tradition, and the Anahata chakra in Hindu tradition. When the mind is focused on the spiritual heart, it attains a state of deep concentration. I'm not a real smart guy, and what I mean by that is I was born with AD and ADHD. My brain cannot retain information. I'm not some genetic freak when it comes to running or lifting weights. I am absolutely at the bottom of the barrel. People will never believe me, and they can believe what they want to believe. So, when you ask me what studying looks like for me, I have to go over the same page repeatedly. While Jennifer can look at a page and quiz herself or me, learning it immediately, I have to write everything down every single day. I study the same page until it becomes like a photographic memory from writing it down. Then, I'll go back through and relearn it, focusing on the small details. For instance, if it's a medication, I'll first learn how to pronounce the name, then the dosage, and then everything about it. This is not a got it situation. It's a daily, thorough process. I can't wait to discuss this because everything I do in life is a struggle. When I was 300 pounds and 24 years old, I had an epiphany to become a Navy SEAL and lose weight. I knew my life would be a constant struggle, which is why I initially ignored it. But through the process, something changed. I realized that I had been at rock bottom, with no talent or ability to learn, and I know what it's like to build from that place. The road to success is rarely a straight line for me. It's always been more like a maze. Many times when I thought I'd cracked the code, I'd hit a wall or get spun around. When that happens, we have two choices: stay stuck or regroup and try again. Evolution begins with hitting those walls repeatedly. It hardens and streamlines you. Having to back up and formulate a new plan without any assurances it will pan out refines your problem-solving skills and endurance. It forces you to adapt, and after hundreds of such experiences over many years, it becomes nearly impossible to believe in yourself or your future. Many people abandon belief at this point, settling into comfort or regret, perhaps embracing their victimhood. Others continue to believe and find a way out, hoping never to fall into such traps again. However, those who succeed don't lose their edge. I am always on the hunt for another twisted maze because that's where I find myself. The smooth road to success does not test or demand belief, though it will never make us great. We all build belief differently. I spend countless hours in the gym, logging thousands of reps and running or biking long distances to cultivate belief. Despite what you may think, I don't consider myself an ultra athlete because those races aren't who I am. They are tools that provide me with a stockpile of faith. When stuck in life's maze, I still believe in achieving my unreasonable goals, such as becoming a smoke jumper at 47 years old, regardless of societal expectations or doctors' opinions. And not suggesting you must run 100 or 200 miles to believe in yourself. That was necessary for me, given the depth of the darkness I came from and the scale of my ambitions. But if you've lost belief, you need to find your way back to it, whatever it takes. Your greatness is not tied to any specific outcome. It is found in the valiance of the attempt. I'm an artist, and every day I paint a new Mona Lisa, although each one is different. Even though I do the same things daily, it requires a different approach each time. Every day, I go through my mind and paint a masterpiece of myself. To do this, I must eliminate distraction. A true artist can't create while being distracted. You need to spend time with yourself, blocking out the noise to fully engage with your mind and body. Most people don't do enough of this. They lack passion, drive, and determination because you haven't spent time with yourself. Your mind will tell you what is next, but you haven't spent the time to go, all right, let me just figure this out. You're looking to Google this and Google that, but you're not going to find it there. There are billions of people in this world, and they're all supposed to be individuals, but we have a pack mentality. That's why you're so lost. Why am I so unique? I'm being exactly what I was supposed to be. I ain't following anyone else, and when I did, I was like everybody else. The second I said, okay man, hang on dude. You don't like this, you don't like this, you don't like this. Who are you, David Goggins? Who are you supposed to be? Miraculously, all these things just came to me. The list of things I had to do just hit me. Once you sit down with yourself and say, okay, I don't want to be like Michael Jordan or Jim Brown, who both have my birthday. I looked at their birthdays and thought, oh, maybe I can be one. No, I can't. I'm going to be David Goggins, and that looks like this. Everything flooded in. Every single day of my life, there's a different thing that comes up that I have to do. We've all experienced it before. There's something we have to do. But even though we know this, we can't convince ourselves to sit down and get it done. Instead, we are overwhelmed with all the distractions surrounding us. Our thoughts run rampant, eclipsing the voice in the back of our heads, telling us to get back on track. We feel out of control, like we can't take charge of our own actions. Temptations are all around us, and foolishly, we keep giving in to them. If this scenario resonates with you, then you are more than likely suffering from a lack of self-discipline. Self-discipline is all about being able to have control over yourself and what you do, say, or think. Because we live in a society that prioritizes pleasure over logic, we fail to realize that self-discipline is integral to our success in life. Without self-discipline, there's very little that we can accomplish. No matter how big our hopes and dreams are, we can't get to the place we want to be in life just by dreaming. Achieving success requires action. Self-discipline is important for a variety of reasons. But the major one is that having self-discipline can completely change the trajectory of your life for the better. You will not only be healthier and happier once you master self-discipline, but you will also find that you are a much more successful person in business, relationships, and numerous other areas of life. Self-deprecation is no longer looked down upon, rather, it is expected. We limit ourselves by downplaying our abilities, and as a result, many people do not realize the power that they have within them. No matter how much you feel like your abilities are lacking, you are capable of achieving great things both in your professional life and your personal life. You have the strength deep inside you to fight your way through anything life throws at you. No matter how tough, developing a strong sense of self-discipline can completely change your life. This is coming from someone who has experienced firsthand how self-discipline can lead to great success. Before gaining a strong sense of control over my life, I often felt hopeless and lost. Now I am on track to achieve many great things, and I consider myself a highly successful person. I firmly believe that I would not have been able to achieve what I have today if it wasn't for the fact that I dedicated myself to learning about self-discipline and how to apply it to my own life. Every day, it gets dusty. And every day you don't start with the victories. You don't go, oh, this is nice. Look at my I love me wall. Let me clean up this little dusty spot. No, I go right for the things that are going to keep me buried. I go right there first, because if I don't clean those out first, the day doesn't start. So what he's saying to me is the truth. And like I told you many times today, I could never figure out how to explain this to people because I'm not a neuron. Nothing. And just a guy that said, okay, we got to start in the dungeon and we got to stay here for the rest of our lives. For you to become successful, the dungeon is a place that has to be clean, and it's the scariest place to be. That's why I ain't misunderstood, because I'm speaking from the dungeon. That's why I am successful, because I go there every damn day, and that is the truth. What he says is the exact truth. Those cabinets are dusty, dirty, and scary as broken glass, dark with spider webs. But most of all, they contain your biggest fears, the biggest things that put you in the place you are today. That's why we all like to keep them shut. Even lock them up, act like they never happened. That's why you never grow. You never improve. You never have real conversations like we're having right now. Never, never. Oh, no, 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 no. Let's not go there. I talk to so many people who tell me that, but they can only say it once, and they'll say it in passing. They won't get deep in the weeds with it, like you can't just clean it. Mother, you got to spit shine that mother. You got to relive every detail of it. You can't just say, oh yeah, my dad beat me, and it is what it is. Hey, it is what it is, but it's killing you. It's taking over your whole life. But that's the conversation. Yeah, my dad I'm fine now, though. I'm good. Okay, all right. No, you ain't. You ain't fine. This is real talk. People don't have that. So your boy is right. 100% right. It's scary as hell, but it makes you who you're supposed to be, And that's the test we forget. We think we're supposed to breathe air, have kids, and pay the bills. What's this life about? That makes no sense. Being tested, my friend. Tests come when you have not studied. Tests come when you think that you're in a great place. That's a test. The test is every day of your life. And most of us fail because we don't know why we're here. Because we don't go inward to say, oh, you gave me a lot of stuff to fix, man, and this test sucks. But then you start. He no longer cared at all. Exhaustion, hunger, thirst, dirt, the fatigue of perpetual fear, weakness from lack of water, bruises, and danger had all taken their toll on him. Somewhere within the last few minutes, he had ceased to feel human. So many different emotions had been drained from him that his emotional reservoir was empty. He just no longer cared much about anything. This great evil, where does it come from? How did it steal into the world? What seed? What root did it grow from? Who's doing this? Who's killing us, robbing us of life and light, mocking us with the sight of what we might have known? Does our ruin benefit the earth? Does it help the grass to grow, the sun to shine? Is this darkness in you too? Have you passed through this night? This is to me the primary thing that Jung saw in order to admit, accept, and understand the evil in oneself. One had to be able to do it without being an enemy to it. As he put it, you had to accept your own dark side. He had this preeminently in his own character. I had a long talk with him back in 1958 and was enormously impressed. He was obviously very great, yet at the same time, everyone could be completely at ease with him. Many great people, great in knowledge or what is called holiness, make the ordinary individual feel embarrassed, inclined to sit on the edge of their chair and feel judged by their wisdom or sanctity. Jung managed to possess wisdom, and I think also sanctity, in such a way that when others came into his presence, they didn't feel judged. They felt enhanced, encouraged, and invited to share in a common life. There was a thought of Hintergedanke in Jung's eye, which gave me the impression that he knew himself to be just as much a villain as everybody else. There's a nice German word, Hintergedanke, which means a thought in the very far back of your mind. Jung had a Hintergedanke in the back of his mind, which showed in the twinkle in his eye. It showed that he recognized what I sometimes call the element of irreducible rascality in himself. He knew it so strongly, clearly, and lovingly that he would not condemn the same thing in others, and therefore would not be led into thoughts, feelings, and acts of violence towards others, which are always characteristic of people who project the devil in themselves onto someone else, onto a scapegoat. This made Jung a very integrated character. He was thoroughly with himself, having seen and accepted his own nature profoundly. He had a kind of unity and absence of conflict in his own nature, which had this additional complication that I find so fascinating. He was the sort of man who could feel anxious, afraid, and guilty without being ashamed of feeling this way. In other words, he understood that an integrated person is not someone who simply eliminates the sense of guilt or anxiety from their life, who is fearless and wooden, a kind of sage of stone. An integrated person is someone who feels all these things, but has no recrimination against themselves for feeling them. This, to my mind, is a profound kind of humor. There's always a certain element of malice in humor. A talk given on the Pacific stations recently featured an interview with Al Capone, who made the point that all humor is fundamentally malicious. There's a very high kind of humor, which is humor at oneself. Real humor is not jokes at the expense of others, it's jokes at the expense of oneself. Of course, it has an element of malice in it, a recognition of the fact that behind the social role you assume, behind all your pretensions to being a good citizen, or a fine scholar, or a great scientist, or a leading politician, there is a certain element of the unreconstructed bum, not as something to be condemned and wailed over, but as something to be recognized as contributive to one's greatness and positive aspects. In the same way that manure is contributive to the perfume of the rose, Jung saw this and accepted it. I want to read a passage from one of his lectures that I think is one of the greatest things he ever wrote, and which has been very meaningful to me. It was delivered to a group of clergy in Switzerland many years ago. People forget that even doctors have moral scruples, and that certain patients' confessions are hard, even for a doctor to swallow. Yet the patient does not feel himself accepted unless the very worst in him is accepted too. No one can bring this about by mere words. It comes only through reflection and through the doctor's attitude toward himself and his own dark side. If the doctor wants to guide another or even accompany him a step of the way, he must feel with that person's psyche. He never feels it when he passes judgment, whether he puts his judgments into words or keeps them to himself. It makes not the slightest difference. Take the opposite position and agree with the patient is also of no use. Feeling comes only through unprejudiced objectivity. This sounds almost like a scientific precept and could be confused with a purely intellectual abstract attitude of mind. But what I mean is something quite different. It is a human quality, a kind of deep respect for the facts, for the man who suffers from them, and for the riddle of such a man's life. The truly religious person has this attitude. He knows that God has brought all sorts of strange and inconceivable things to pass and seeks in the most curious ways to enter a man's heart. He therefore senses in everything the unseen presence of the divine will. This is what I mean by unprejudiced objectivity. It is a moral achievement on the part of the doctor, who ought not to let himself be repelled by sickness and corruption. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Sin does not liberate, it oppresses. I am the oppressor of the person I condemn, not his friend and fellow sufferer. I do not mean to say that we must never pass judgment when we desire to help and improve, but if the doctor wishes to help a human being, he must be able to accept him as he is. And he can do this in reality only when he has already seen and accepted himself as he is. Perhaps this sounds very simple, but simple things are always the most difficult. In actual life, it requires the greatest art to be simple. Acceptance of oneself is the essence of the moral problem and the acid test of one's whole outlook on life. That I feed the beggar, forgive an insult, and love my enemy in the name of Christ. These are undoubtedly great virtues. That I do unto the least of my brethren, that I do unto Christ. But what if I discover that the least among them all, poorest of all beggars, the most impudent of all offenders, yea, the very fiend himself? What if these are within me, and that I myself stand in need of the arms of my own kindness? What if I myself am the enemy who must be loved? What then, as a rule, the whole truth of Christianity is reversed. There is no more talk of love and long-suffering. We say to the brother within us, rock and condemn and rage against ourselves. We hide him from the world, deny ever having met this least among the lowly in ourselves. Had it been God himself who drew near to us in this despicable form, we should have denied him 1,000 times before a single cock crowed. This is a very forceful and memorable passage in all of Jung's works. He tried to heal the insanity from which our culture, in particular, has suffered, thinking that a human being can become healthy and holy by being divided against himself in inner conflict, paralleling the conception of a cosmic conflict between an absolute good and an absolute evil, which cannot be reduced to any prior and underlying unity. In other words, our rage, and very proper rage against evil things, must not overstep itself. If we require as a justification for our rage a fundamental and metaphysical division between good and evil, we have an insane and, in a certain sense, schizophrenic universe of which no sense whatsoever can be made. All conflict, Jung was saying, all opposition has its resolution in an underlying unity. You cannot understand the meaning of being unless you understand the meaning of not being. You cannot understand the meaning of good unless you understand the meaning of evil. Even St. Thomas Aquinas saw this. He said that just as the silent pause gives sweetness to the chant, So it is suffering and evil which make possible the recognition of virtue. This is not, as Jung tries to explain, a philosophy of condoning the evil. To take the opposite position, he said, and to agree with the patient is also of no use. But as strange as it may seem, the patient must be condemned,